On the Senate floor Thursday, Senator Dick Durbin called out Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell by name. The moment came as Durbin was voicing his support for the DISCLOSE Act, an election contribution transparency bill. Earlier on the Senate floor, McConnell said that the DISCLOSE Act, quote, is an insult to the First Amendment, and the notion that it gets Senate floor time today, before everything else, is truly an insult to the working people of this country. Durbin fired back in his speech, saying, quote, Senator McConnell says we should be dealing with serious issues. There is no more serious issue than the integrity of our campaign process.
Madam President,
Majority Whip.
does the name Barry Side ring a bell? Barry Side of Chicago, businessman, successful businessman. He was born in 1932, and he owned a company called Trip Light that made electronic products. He was very successful in the course of his life. And he decided to donate the value of this company to something known as the Marble Freedom Trust. That ring a bell? Barry Side, Marble Freedom Trust? The reason I bring those up on the floor of the United States Senate is Mr. Side, with this gift of $1.6 billion to Marble Freedom Trust, is setting out to change America. Wait a minute. 90-year-old individual who has been charitable in many ways, gives money away, and it changes America? Yes, I stand by my comment, because the Marble Freedom Trust is now becoming the largest dark money, secret money contributor to American political campaigns in the history of the United States. And if you think I'm overreacting, the go-to leader of the Marble Freedom Trust is a man named Leonard Leo. I'm sure none of these names register with most Americans. Barry Side of Chicago, Marble Freedom Trust, Leonard Leo. What's this got to do with what my family's worried about? Well, let me get to the bottom line, because the leader from the Republican side just alluded to it. This $1.6 billion is going to be invested in political campaigns on the right for conservative Republican candidates, period. Leonard Leo has a pedigree and well-known background of involvement in politics in Washington, and he's been very successful. I'm a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, currently chairman, but over the years I've watched, over the Trump years, every judicial nominee approved by the Republicans had to pass one litmus test. They had to be cleared by the Federalist Society. Now, that's another name which the average American family won't recognize, but let me tell you what the Federalist Society is. The Federalist Society is a clearinghouse for lawyers who want to be judges. You've got to join it. You've got to pay your dues. You've got to show up. Most importantly, you have to pass the checklist of required positions on issues before you can become a judge on the Republican side. That happened over and over and over again in the hearings we had for nominees for lifetime appointments to the federal court during the Trump administration. I would ask these lawyers sitting before us, when you could question them, tell me about the Federalist Society. Oh, we just got together for lunch once in a while. It's not that big a deal. But what a coincidence that every nominee had to be approved by the Federalist Society. And it didn't end there. When former President Trump put out his list of potential Supreme Court nominees, which include the three that he ended up choosing, all of them were provided by the Federalist Society. The Federalist Society and Leonard Leo. Sadly, they got the job done. Senator McConnell was complicit in that. When there's a vacancy on the Supreme Court with the untimely death of Anton Scalia, it was Senator McConnell and the Senate Republicans who blocked President Obama in his last year in office from filling that vacancy. In fact, they refused. They said to their members, don't even meet with the man. Here's Merrick Garland, a respected jurist on the D.C. Circuit, nominated to the highest court in the land, can't even get an appointment with a Republican senator to plead his case that he would be a good nominee. And the reason? Senator McConnell was bound and determined to make sure that a Federalist Society nominee eventually made it to the court, and he got his way. So now we have Leonard Leo in a new role. God only knows how much they're paying him. But this man is now set up on a new political agenda. It is the largest dark money, secret money effort in the history of the United States. How did we learn about Barry Seid giving $1.6 billion to this Marble Freedom Trust? Someone leaked it to the newspapers. Otherwise, it would have gone unnoticed, because this is, in fact, the world of dark and secret money. Senator McConnell made a passing reference to the fact that we're about to vote on something called the DISCLOSE Act. The DISCLOSE Act, and I want to salute Senator Whitehouse, who's not on the floor at the moment. The DISCLOSE Act is really pretty basic. We're going to vote today on this provision, which would be added to our campaign law, protecting American democracy from foreign interference and requiring super PACs and special interest groups to disclose anyone contributing $10,000 or more to their cause. That's it. We don't prohibit the actual contribution. We just require disclosure. Where's it coming from? And the reason we asked for this is that you go to state by state with heated campaigns of the day, and you'll find all sorts of ads online and on television, and you have to race to the TV set to get close enough to read the small print at the end of the ad that explains who pays for it. And if you knew who really paid for it, it could explain a lot of things to you. I've been, for example, at war with the major credit card companies, Visa and MasterCard. They have a duopoly, and I believe they overcharge consumers across America, and they are a contributor to inflation. In fact, they admit that much. And so as a result, I passed an amendment 8 or 10 years ago, which they have branded the Durbin Amendment, which limits debit card swipe fees, interchange fees. I get into the world of finance here. And they hate it. Visa and MasterCard hated my amendment like the devil hates holy water. Why? Because it cost them $8 billion a year. It reduces the add-on charges that retailers, restaurants, and shops have to charge when people use a Visa and MasterCard. So every once in a while, they work up the courage to come at me again and try to undo this amendment. And they buy television ads. Do the television ads say that they're paid for by Visa and MasterCard? No. They say they're paid for by the Committee for a Better America or something. What we're trying to do with the DISCLOSE Act is give to the voters of this country more information, and in so doing, protect the whole process from corruption by foreign money being spent or by individuals like Mr. Seid, who puts $1.6 billion into the treasury of the Republican side. Now, if they came to the floor to debate this, and I don't think they will, they're likely to say, well, you do the same thing. You use dark money and such. It is true that the campaign system is set up for organizations not to disclose, but we are authoring the solution to the problem for both political parties. We're standing by a reform and a change, Senator Whitehouse has led the way, that would literally say to America, you have the right to know. Who's paying for this candidate's ads? Who's putting all those ads on TV? What special interest group is behind this cause? Now, Senator McConnell says we should be dealing with serious issues. There is no more serious issue than the integrity of our campaign process. And I know, as a person who's been a candidate over many years, that it's changed dramatically. I can remember not that long ago when the first super PAC effort on the Democratic Senate side raised something in the range of $4 to $10 million. Well, I can tell you that has been increasing by multiples every year. And on the other side, same story. Do we need to sit down, both political parties, and put an end to this madness? Do we need to tell Mr. Seid and his family, take your $1.6 billion and spend it for something that is really wholesome and of value to your community and your nation, rather than to get into the hunt to be the biggest spender? Mr. Seid became the biggest spender of campaign funds in the history of the United States with his $1.6 billion contribution to Leonard Leo, the Marble Trust, and the Republican cause. That's a fact. I think we ought to change it. This system we have in America is one we need to protect and not exploit. When the U.S. Supreme Court in Citizens United decided that money was speech and that corporations had a right to speak, it really corrupted the system in ways unimaginable. We're living with the results today. Citizens United was a terrible decision. Search the Constitution all day and night for the word corporations. You won't even find it. This is no constitutional protection. And the idea that if you're rich, you can speak more loudly and more often in America is a corruption of the basic rights we all should protect and enjoy. So I'm going to vote in favor of the DISCLOSE Act. I don't think it's as insignificant as the senator from Kentucky does. I think it gets to the heart of the issue about the future of our democracy. Madam President, I ask that a separate statement I'd like to make be placed in a separate part of the record.
Without objection.
I yield the floor.